First off, I would like to mention that nobody provided me this phone. Nobody is paying me to make this video. No one is going to swoop down and threaten me with the loss of access or anything from what I say today. You're getting my unvarnished opinion for better and for worse. I purchased this and all the tech I talk about in this video myself. Let's start off with the dislikes. There aren't any substantial dislikes. Yes, I've got a few quibbles that we'll get to, but big picture, it's great. And I'm going to say this right up front. This is the single best cell phone that I've ever used in my life. First quibble though, the price is real darn steep. The S24 Ultra costs more than I generally recommend people spend for whole computers. It costs almost an entire other phone difference between its base model and the M1 MacBook Air. Yes, you could buy a whole other phone for the difference between this and the laptop that I always recommend. You do need to pay for quality, but we're getting into a blurry territory with a phone this expensive where it seems to exist mainly to be financed, and you should never, ever finance a phone. I may make a whole video about that itself. Don't, especially if you're a kid. Do not finance cell phones. Second quibble, and it's not something I'd noticed until folks mentioned it in my unboxing video comments, the vivid display picture mode is the same as natural. When you go between the two, you cannot see an increase in saturation. You do see a slight difference, but that appears to be because of color balance changes that you can make when in vivid mode. When I try the same thing on my Z Flip 5, you can see a difference in saturation between those modes. I'm sure this will get fixed in a software update in the future, but it is something to note as of the release of this video. That's it. Anything I might complain about has more to do with things outside of the physical S24 Ultra and not complaints about the phone itself. Well then, Gary, what have you liked? In short, a lot. First off, the build quality of this phone is unreal. And when I say build quality, I'm lumping in the design. This might be the best design phone that I've ever held in my hand. And team, something I want you to note, I've been making YouTube videos for a very long time. I've been a tech enjoyer for a very long time. This is the pinnacle of what a glass slab cell phone can be. The size is cumbersome at times, I'm not gonna lie about that, but the silvered edges, the frosted back, the orange, it all comes together so well. In actual use, the phone feels smaller than it really is, but I mean that in a good way. Because the phone is so rectangular, the thickness of the phone actually feels less. It's almost the exact opposite problem I have with the iPhone Pro, the smaller Pro lineup, where it's actually smaller and dense, so it feels bigger in a bad way. But while the phone feels smaller, the display built into it feels gigantic at all times. I'm not exactly sure how they pulled off this illusion. Even being acutely aware of the trick, I still can't get my hands and my brain to wrap around how it happens. The buttons are all great, the phone fits well in pockets from jeans to blazers. Always carry your phone in a jacket pocket if possible. It looks better, it's smart. It feels better to pull my phone out of my jacket pocket, makes me feel like I'm a real adult. I've also really liked the display. I know some folks are grumpy about the vivid profile thing, but I don't personally like phones to be so saturated my eyeballs like ache from looking at it. This display has been incredible. It refreshes fast. It feels very sure when I tap. It can go bright enough outdoors to very easily read text without having to like shade the screen from the sun or hide under a tree, and that's about as much as you could use from a screen, right? Those things right there. My favorite part about the display though is none of that. My favorite part is the anti-glare. And I don't know how Samsung achieved this, but this might be the best controlled glare glass surface I've ever seen. And I said that, glare glass surface, I only did that in one take. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I don't normally talk about anti-glare in videos because you don't really think about it often. If you get glares, that's a problem. That's how good this is. The display doesn't feel matte or rough in use, but it looks matte when a glare hits it. And I've not seen the light source that can glare it up so much the phone becomes harder to use. I guess I don't have access to every kind of light source in the world, so maybe one exists out there? But for me, it's been awesome. The next thing I've liked are the cameras. Yes, it's my first time with a Samsung Ultra, so maybe these are the same cameras year over year, but dang, I still like them. This should not be a controversial statement, but I think all cell phone cameras are good enough for outside photos. I'm not even going to argue that today. There are whole channels dedicated to pixel peeping on these that you can go watch to find out like which one specifically is better. Where all modern cell phones struggle is indoors under artificial light. Heck, even my iPhone 15 Pro Max, just released a couple of months ago, had some real weird oddities about it in this exact setting. But from what I've seen on the S24 Ultra and the S24, the main Samsung wide-angle camera handles indoors better than anything I've ever seen. I legitimately think you could use this as an actual YouTube camera by itself, and that's definitely not a controversial statement. People have been wildly successful using phones way before Gary here said it. Even for a camera snob like me, this is pretty darn good. The front-facing camera has been okay. I'm not as in love with it. Colors and skin tones are fine, but you can absolutely see the difference in sensor size and quality even on lower end displays. Everything just kind of has a lot of noise in it even when it's very well lit. It's clearly not the end of the world, but I really don't like the front-facing one as much as I like the rest, which does have an outsized influence on me personally as I use the front-facing cameras on my phones all the time. I would almost say they're my primary cameras, just in general. Power-wise, the phone seems fine. I'm generally not one to get wrapped up in the bar chart chasing bit wars of spec enjoyers, but everything's been super smooth, and the phone never even hints that it's struggling, even when I've got many things open at the same time, and this will get more relevant in the next section. One thing I'm very happy about is that Samsung's committed to 7 years of updates here, which is more in line with the industry standard. We'll actually have to see what those updates look like in the future, but having this be relevant that long means if you are spending this intense amount of money, at least you don't have to spend it again next year. And that's why power and processors matter the most in smartphones. Longevity. And yes, I'll continue to say that in all smartphone videos I make, because when I watch other people's videos and they're like, oh, look at the numbers go up. Yeah, okay. What matters is how long can you use this investment that you've put into it, because this is enough money, I would consider this an investment. I like but don't love the AI features in the phone. We'll have to wait for a much longer follow-up video to see how they've improved over time, but here and today, it's a neat little trick, but the generative photo editing hasn't won me over. The AI writing seems to be making us think less as people. The translator is cool, but other companies do that without needing to potentially charge for an AI buddy to help. And I don't know that I like the amount of my data that's probably being shared with the AI model to help improvement. So it's fine, but it's only fine. Battery life has been excellent. For example, I wrote the entire script for this video on the Ultra 2. And by the time I got to this point in the script, I'd written for over an hour on the phone and the battery life had dropped 2%. That's with me doing more than just working in Google Docs. I had to reconfirm statements, I checked other apps, we did some research. That makes this phone right up there with my iPhone 15 Pro Max for usable life. Much like pixel peeping in the camera, if you want to see specific battery tests, there are battery tests all the way out there. For usable regular people, it's real good. Charging has also been okay. The S24 Ultra can do 45 watts of charging, which I've found to give me back huge chunks of life in short periods of time. May not be class leading, but it's been pretty good. Let me tell you about something else that I've really liked in the past week. The S Pen. Not just because you can write on the screen. My handwriting is hideous, and it's even worse when I have to do it on a screen. Not just because it can be used as a camera shutter remote, which you actually have to buy those separate for real cameras. The S Pen clicks like a real pen. I love this so much, and I have absolutely been driving my wife crazy clicking this all the time. I assume at some point it's going to mysteriously vanish, but until that happens, I'm just gonna keep clicking. I'm gonna keep clicking, but let's move on to my favorite part in my last week with the S24 Ultra, the modularity. Legitimately, you can, and I have, used this in a ton of different cases, going from talking on a family call, to writing documents, to travel laptop, to home computer. That's not YouTuber hyperbole. I'm not doing the funny thumbnail face here. This might be the single most modular piece of tech that I've ever seen. Starting from just the phone, nothing is needed here. Maybe just get a case and a screen protector. Moving up to a portable collaboration tool, as we saw in my previous accessory video, you can get a little phone stand and a little folding keyboard and be good to go. The size of the screen is just big enough that you can use it vertically as a little computer comfortably. Yes, you could do something similar with a laptop, but laptops are, and trust me, when you are crammed in a conference, laptops are not really good in that space. You can even go from there and add in a mouse and portable monitor, and after swapping to Dex mode, your phone has now turned into a little faux laptop that weighs less than my MacBook Air. For real, it's like a pound less than my MacBook Air. Dex is more like a Chromebook than either a Windows laptop or a MacBook, but crap, that's more than enough for me, especially when I'm out traveling. And if that's more than enough for you all the time, you can take this up past its limiter and actually have this be your home computer. You plug it into a USB-C, not Thunderbolt, dock or dongle, real keyboard, big monitor, and without exaggeration, this is now a home computer. Yes, you'll be limited from gaming, and that kind of sucks, but I've said this plenty of times in the past, I only personally have a computer for YouTube and World of Warcraft. If I didn't have those two requirements, I wouldn't own a computer at all, and I would manage my life from my phone. And I guarantee there are a whole lot of you out there that do the same. All right, Gary, you've talked about it enough. Would you recommend the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra? Yes, but with an asterisk. In a vacuum that doesn't use money, the S24 Ultra is the single best cell phone I've ever used. Not the best Samsung phone, but this has been one of the best tech experiences that I've ever had. But we do live in a world where things cost money, and this costs so much money. You could get most of what I've talked about today in either the S24 Standard, which comes in at $440 less, or even an Amazon renewed S23 Ultra for about $500 less. Think more about the functionality and less about the new shiny stuff, and you can be so much better off. It's great, but like, is it worth that much extra for that little bit better? But what about you? Did you buy the S24 Ultra? Are you enjoying it? Let us all know in the comments below. And click here to see all of the best accessories if you have a Samsung phone. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.